Hello. Today I wanted to talk about a bit on the subject of audiences. Sorry, excuse me. I made a load of notes and then put them out of sight. Now, there were two things really that came up this week that made me think about this. There was discussion on Discord. It was on the drive-through Discord about well, mainly about Kickstarters and how can you kind of guarantee a successful Kickstarter, which of course you can never guarantee that. But that made me think of a tweet I saw by Adam Jury of the Posthuman Studios. He was talking about they run successful Kickstarters. They make 20, 30,000 dollars, but the problem is that a professional quality game costs about $100,000 to make. So of course the Kickstarter, it helps with the production costs, but that there's so much more on top. And that actually elicited a response of someone that uh, obviously a Kickstarter supporter, that was of the opinion that if the Kickstarter made more than the cost of the game to produce, then the backers should get some of the money back, should get basically like a dividend on shares, which is an interesting idea. There is actually a crowdfunding uh, uh, website for exactly that, Crowdcube, where you can crowdfund company funding in return for shares. But that's beside the point. Um, so even companies or producers like Posthuman Studios that run successful Kickstarters aren't getting the sort of numbers to actually fund the games they want to create. It still comes back to selling games and reinvesting profits, which of course, if you're a small studio, could mean you could invest all your profits in a game which then bombs for whatever reason, and that can wipe you out. Uh, you know, we hear stories like this all the time where a relatively simple looking business decision ends up fatal. But uh, going back to that conversation on the drive-through Discord, it was again about how where can you get the backers to back a Kickstarter. And the way the conversation went was along the lines of someone had reached out to Kevin Crawford for advice on this. It's better to take advice from people that are already successful. And Kevin Crawford said, build up your mailing list. And the person that asked the question basically said, well, I've done that. I've got nearly 2,000 people on my mailing list. To which Kevin Crawford replied he got over 65,000 on his. Now, of course, if you've got 65,000 people that have all voluntarily signed up to hear about your new products, and then you tell them about Kickstarter, you are going to get quite a few backers from that. So yeah, that's great. If you've got a list of 65,000, then you're probably not the sort of person watching these videos. We're at the other end of the scale. But that's mailing lists. I'm building up my own mailing list outside of drive-through. My mailing list on drive-through is over just over 5,000. My mailing list outside of drive-through is just a few hundred, but it builds every day. It builds. Now, leading on to this, MT Black, he released a book, The Wondrous Magic, and it went gold bestseller in just a matter of days. Now, the book itself isn't particularly outstanding. There's nothing wrong with it, obviously. The cover isn't absolutely amazing. Um, it's just your typical 5e resource book. But MT Black has got such a huge following that in 3 days it was a gold bestseller. Almost every single time I refresh drive-through, um, it was going up. The first time it was copper. When drive-through does its data refresh, it went silver. Then the next morning it was electrum, and that evening it was gold. And it is a very good chance that by the time you watch this video, it will be gone from gold to platinum, because as soon as people read the emails that had signed up to MT Black's you know, announcement list, they all heard about it. And that book will sit at the top of the hottest list for a long time, because it's your first day sales and your first week sales that weigh the most and gets you, up to the top of those hottest lists and can help keep you there. So building audience is not strictly about just big numbers. It's about focused, big numbers. On Twitter, people will, you often get told to, follow back. If you follow, say, 20, 30 people every day, and some of them will follow you back. You follow another 20 people, they follow you back, and so on. You just keep doing that until you've got a big following. Then you can, if you want, unfollow people that didn't follow you back, bit by bit, and your account doesn't look so spammy. The flaw with doing that is there's a very good chance that absolutely no one that you followed is actually likely to buy any of your products. They aren't your customers, they are just, big accounts. You follow accounts which have got thousands of followers, just hoping they will follow you back, and then maybe they might retweet something, and then it's seen by their, you big numbers of their followers. And it rarely ever works like that. You're far better off following people that you have a genuine interest in your area, and then when they retweet something or reply to something and you see it, if you've got anything valuable to say, then respond to their retweet and or their reply, and your response will be seen as a direct kind of human to human interaction with that third person, and you can spread um, your audience that way, but you are talking to individuals, and you know don't try and sell them anything directly, just actually add value to the conversation. But that comes down to interacting with the audience you've got, which it may not be very big at the start. I most of my numbers are in a few hundreds, hundreds, few hundreds. Drive through is the biggest audience I've got, and that's 5,000. This channel at the moment has just over 200. All my numbers are quite small, but because I always talk to the same audience and I interact with my audience, they're all very loyal, and they respond well to me. And it's that conversation and interacting with your audience as valuable individuals that I think adds value and credence to anything you put out there. I made a little list actually. I released a book called Freelancer. It supports the Warlock system. Sasha Diath asked me to look at that one. Then and it's made a few $100 there. Someone called Steel, the username is Steel, wanted me to look at GURPS Modern, so I did a book for that, and that's a silver bestseller. That's a few $100 come from that. Then someone called Glenn asked me to do Troika, which was last week, and that's selling okay. That's the card deck. And then this week, Jordan said that Tech Noir could be something worth looking at. And I reached out to the publishers of that on Facebook this week. I've not heard anything back yet, but none of those would probably be on my production list if my audience hadn't come to me and said, "Ah, right, here's one that's worth looking at." So, although I haven't, I probably sold one each to the people that suggested them, but that's almost beside the point. By them saying, "Look, we're in this solo community, we're, the people I need to reach. We're playing these games, so those are the ones that I can either write for. Some of them take longer. Wicked ones took 6 to 8 weeks to read, write, play, get used to, and it's in playtesting now. Um, but that's not a game I was familiar with. It was Blades in the Dark based, so I knew the system, but it had its own unique twists on things. But it's by valuing the audience you've got of any size. I've got an audience, I've said a couple of times now, of just a few hundred, but they give me such valuable feedback that they are worth 10 times their size in just plain numbers. My Twitter following is under 700, but the feedback I get from them has you know earned me probably a few $1,000s just by doing things that they suggested. So yeah, it doesn't matter how big your audience is. Treat them as individuals. Listen to them, interact with them, and that I think will uh, help build the audience. The more people realize that you value them, they're not just a herd of cattle to be pushed to buy things, but instead you respect them, and because you respect them, they end up buying things. It all works to build your brand and build your reputation, and will build your business, and it'll build a strong business rather than just doing things to bump up your mailing list. Because 5,000 people that aren't interested in what you're selling is no use to you. You're better off having 1,000 people that do care and will do something about it. So yeah, my message today is really about the importance of building your audience. So like Kevin Crawford, when you've got an audience that's probably between 50 and 100,000, really will work for you. That is a big gun to turn on to a Kickstarter or any new product launch. But even with small numbers, you can really make audiences work for you. So that it doesn't matter how small you are, start as soon as you possibly can, building up your audience, building up your mailing list, building up your social media following, but interact with them, treat them as individuals. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of today's video. All about audiences, yeah, look after them.